Hello, hello, hello. This is Suzette for Cloudy Sky today. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. Well, it's not really a little bit different. I've done it in the past. We're going to talk about poetry. And to celebrate National Poetry Month, I have a couple topics that I want to discuss. Yay, National Poetry Month. Why do we have poetry controversies? There was a controversy with the Nobel Prize, the Inaugural Poet, and also celebrity poets. Why are there controversies? I even had a controversy myself where I had this poem. They're like, it's too sing-songy. So that brings me to what I want to say. A bard. A bard. A poet. One who writes in passion, lyrical, or epic verse. I'm reading from Britannica. Bards were originally Celtic composers, right? Of eulogy, satire, etc. And I think the most important thing to do, they were often accompanied by musicians. A minstrel. Minstrel were the musicians, and this pretty much became evolved into an opera because after a while they started organizing, and you had to be a apprentice. But you can look up the Britannica online. Another good source for the minstrel is medieval, and I'll put the link below. But it's a medieval thing, and it gives you a whole bunch of history on different medieval, how they came about and everything. So Nobel Prize. I couldn't understand why there was a controversy a singer-songwriter because back in 1971, and I found this out, he had a poetry book, you know. And considering that bards often song or work with poetry, why was it a controversy? Plus, I even watched a movie. Well, it was a documentary, Poetry in Motion. And in it, there were poets who were reading their poems accompanied with music. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, this was directed by Mann back in 1982. So it was collected probably between the 70s and 80. You had Amiri, Baraka, Allen Ginsberg, Diane de Prima, Charles, I can't say his name, but it's not anything new. Poets sometimes employ music. Now, I guess he's most known for his singing and his albums, so it's going the other way, I guess. But I found an article, and I'll put the link also below, where he had a poetry book too. So, why the controversy? Different people had different aspects that they probably felt this other person who had a more impact on literature. But I feel he has an impact on everyday person, which I think is, what bards and minstrels used to do. And here I have one of the articles where they made a case against why he shouldn't win. And of course, that's where I brought up, these other people who are predominantly poetry. And I guess they have a issue with him being a rich celebrity. And that's what I got from it, a bit of sour grapes. Which brings to the inaugural poet. I actually like this article. At first I thought it was going to be an article against Amanda Gorman being the inaugural point for Biden in 2021. But when you read it, he tells you what her accomplishments are. She's a graduate and she also has books published. And he goes into explain why some people might not like her, and some of the critiques have nothing to do with the poem itself, but sometimes it has to do with the person who's delivering the poem, that she's young, and it could even be racially charged, which you'd think in today's day and age that wouldn't matter, but unfortunately it does. So he addressed it. I also like the New York Times article by Alexandra, okay, that was J. Sizemore, where and it goes on to give the meaning behind the poems because she actually wrote a lot about it after that whole Capitol Hill riot. So it's about to bring. It was a poem for unity, about the hill we climb, and it's very interesting. And the articles, both of these articles, which I will include the link below, also have the poem, and you can hear it from yourself and you can form your own opinion. Because one thing I like about, and I think this is most of the research I found, is that poetry, it is subjective. What you might like, I might not like. Like, I know, for example, that I like rhyming poetry. Why? Because when I was growing up, the limericks and those kind of poems, I went to a high school in Jamaica. I also went to high school in America, so I can contrast the both. My extracurricular activity was the drama club, and we recited poems. I remember us doing Rudyard Kipling's. I remember it had something to do with machines, and we will do the machinations and all different kind of things. I like it to have a certain rhythm, lyrics. It's easier to memorize, it's easier to remember, and it makes it more memorable. I mean, I still say 30 days at September, April, June, and November. All the rest of 31 days except February alone, which has 28 and 29 in the leap year. That's a rhyme. We use a lot of rhymes to help us remember stuff a lot of time. So, why some people don't like things to have I call it a flow, because someone to critique it for against, or why some people critique it sounds too much like slam poetry. No, I'll be honest, I'm more of a singing songy, because I'm from the Caribbean, kind of poet. I'm not really a slam poet, but I appreciate different kinds of spoken verse, and if it can intrigue people and this is what people like, let it be. Now, on poems and songs, I love this. This is an older article. It's from 2011, Julia Keller, Chicago Tribune. And what I got from it, there are some singers who don't want to be called poets. Take, for example, Sundam. He's the lyricist for West Side Story. He doesn't want to be called a poet. He's quite insulted to be called a poet. But there are other singers, celebrities, who embrace being called a poet and want to pour out their personal feelings. And whether or not you agree, guess what? That's the thing about America. You're free to. If you want to add in some, if you want to do like a Ginsberg, where you just not Ginsberg and Kerouac, the beat poetry, where some people call it the word vomit. Hey, do that. If you want to be a little bit rhymey and have inner rhymes and get all creative with it, hey, do that. I think it is all good. And I mean, some of it may not be for you, but it's just like a movie. Not all movies are for you. Some of us like comedy, some of us like romance, some of us like action, some of us like horror, some of us don't like horror, talking about me. So, different kind of flavors for different people. And I think there's enough poetry for all of us around. It hurts me when people say, oh, I hate poetry. Poetry is so boring. And I think a lot of the different people that I've been reading hit it right on the nose. It might be how it's taught in school, but if you think about it, if you say, hey, this poem is just like all the other poems you probably use in your day-to-day life, they might appreciate it more. So I actually also look up a little bit of the history of the lyric poetry. And again, music. And you think of lyric poetry, you got the sonnets, you got the odes. Those were all lyrical points. And when you think of something like, how do I love thee? Let me count the ways. You can feel it's a sonnet, so it has a certain flow, stanza, rhythm to it. You can use different words, for to convey the same meaning. My best way of saying it. So, I mean, what does it say about poetry and controversies? It probably will still continue, because there's always going to be something you like, something I like, something we want to debate about. I just want the debate to be about the point. Let's not attack the people. And I think some of that has been going on. Yes, it's a reflection of our political climate, but I would expect poetry. Well, I'm not trying to be smart. I guess poetry people are a part of society, so I guess it is to be expected. But when you're thinking about lyric poems, it could be short, it could be long, but they said it has song-like qualities. And it could be in a format like a sonnet, it could even be a free verse. Because a lot of free verse may not have the end rhymes, but it may have some inner rhymes or some repetition or something that makes it very song-like. And I'm telling you, when I saw that documentary, I saw it actually, I don't want to advertise any platforms, but I saw it on a famous platform, video. and it was enjoyable. I was seeing all these, beat, and I watched it a little bit after. I think is Diane the Prima that, and I was looking at it, going, I want to see what her work is like, and it was interesting, very much so. I mean, especially sometimes they were having drum beats, sometimes it was full on piano, sometimes it was a full on concert. I was just like, wow, and they're reading along with this poem. The way we get the word lyric poetry is actually from that lyra or that harp like instrument that they would play that would often be accompanying the poems. And hence, that's how we would get lyric poetry. So it's very interesting. The history of poetry is somewhat intertwined with music, and yet some people don't want, you know, musicality or musical tones in poetry. Now, I have some singers. I didn't put in the actors, so I just put singers. And some of you know some of these singers, like Alicia Keys. No One, that song, she actually key in A major. She has a book, Tears for Water. Jim Morrison of The Doors, and of course, People Are Strange is one of my favorite songs. I haven't read it. I haven't read all of these books. I've read some. And American Prayer, Joel. I actually remember having her album. Let me see. Yeah, Joel, Pieces of You, and You Were Meant for Me. I just remember that song. I don't know. Yeah, actually, I have it right here, surprisingly. Tion T. Buzz Watkins. I also have. She's from, TLC. I actually have that too, but it's not right at my fingertips, so let me see if it is. Nah. But I actually have a couple of their albums. She has one, Thoughts. It might be a little bit prose and poetry. Ashanti, and I know her for doing like the backings with Ja Rule and stuff, but I do know she also has her own music out. Foolish on Foolish Reflections on Love. Leonard Cohen, he's also a well known composer. He actually had a poetry book, so let us compare mythology. And in one of the articles, he was one of the critics against, somebody getting a Nobel Prize. But hey, Banks. I actually don't really know too much about her music, but she has a lot of music out. And Generation of Women from the Moon Poetry. Patti Smith, I know of. She had that song with Don Henley, I remember. And right now, it just flipped my brain. Year of the Monkey. Lana Del Rey, Summertime Sadness. Young and Beautiful. Violet bent backwards over the grass. I'll see. Contemporary singer. I would leave if I could. And Kelsey Ballerina, Feel Your Way Through. So there are plenty of people out there singing their hearts out and also writing poetry. Now, I want to share my singing song poem with you, and I actually wrote this probably in my 20s, early 20s. Not trying to age myself, but right out of college. Yeah, maybe 1920. But it's in my book, The Collection, so I just want to share it with you a little bit. So it's called Running from Love. Don't want to be caught in the tangled maze of love. Scared to be afloat on the emotional sea of love. So I keep running away. I keep running away. I'm running away from love. Don't want my emotions caused ablaze with love. Afraid of my passion filling my heart with love. So I keep running away. I keep running away. I'm running away from love. I want to give my heart to someone to love. Open my arms, kiss, and embrace my love. But I keep running. I keep running away. I'm running away from love. And here are some of the sources I have here for what we were talking about earlier. And I will share all these links below. So I hope you enjoy this and see you soon. And if you're writing poetry, keep writing poetry. But next week I'll probably go back to my email scams or, yeah, who knows? Let's see. Alrighty. See you around.